Hi everyone, I'm Sharon and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I am making a slimline card that features two grown lions and a positively adorable little lion cub. This card is perfect for welcoming a new baby or a young child's birthday. Without any further ado, let's begin with a look at the Heffy Doodle products I use. I use the adorable lion stamp set and the stitched Slimline trio dies. I load all of my stamps into my Misty stamping tool and use Fawn jet black ink to ink up all of my images. This ink is very crisp and is alcohol marker friendly. I use my Ohuhu alcohol brush markers to color in my images. I use 3 shades of yellow, a dark shade, a medium shade, and a light shade. First, I start with the lightest shade, and I color in the entire body of the lion. This wets the paper and makes for a smoother blend. Afterwards, I use the darkest shade of yellow to add shadows where I think they may be, such as in the areas of under the arm, chin, or legs. And lastly, I use the medium shade of yellow to blend out the shadows, the darkest shade, in with the lightest shade. I'm not an expert at coloring, but I do continue to practice, watch other crafters' coloring techniques, and am developing my own coloring style. For the lion cub, I am only using the medium and the lightest shade of yellow because he's the youngest and I want him to be the brightest. I find the Ohuhu alcohol brush markers to be quite amazing for blending, and they only cost a fraction of the price of Copics markers. There are just over 200 colors in the 3 combined sets of Ohuhu markers that I purchased from Amazon.ca. If you wish to see the exact name of the 3 sets of markers, please see the description box below. I'm going to leave you now with some music as I continue on with my coloring. After I finish coloring all of my images, I use the coordinating dies to die cut out all of the images. Next, I use the largest of the Heffy Doodle stitched Slimline trio rectangles to die cut a panel using some Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. Then I used the 3-stitch scallop windows die to cut out 3 openings on the panel. I ink blend the bottom of the panel using some Mowed Lawn Distress Oxide. As the transition into the top of the panel, which will be a blue sky, I use some Twisted Citron Distress Oxide, followed by some Tumbled Glass Distress Oxide. I blend the 3 colors back and forth until I get a smooth blend and a gradual transition between the 3 colors. Now I have a 7 by 8.5 inch piece of accent opaque 120-pound cardstock, scored at the midway 3.5 inch mark on the 7-inch side. This is my card base. I use my pencil to draw little dots on the card base to mark the empty spaces of the 3 scalloped squares. This way, I know how much space I need to ink blend in those open spaces. I use squeezed lemon Distress Oxide and blend it out with some spiced Marmalade Distress Oxide for some contrast in the background. Using a lawn fawn, grassy hillside border and a stitched hillside border, I die cut 2 borders to ground my lions on. I use Lucky Clover and I also use Rustic Wilderness Distress Oxide for the grass. And for the hillside border, I use some Vintage Photo Distress Oxide. When I'm finished ink blending, I measure and cut down the borders to the size of the scalloped square openings. Next, I work on the sentiment. I line up my sentiments using a Simon Says Stamp transparency grid. I use Versafine Onyx black ink and use the sentiments from the adorable Lion stamp set that says, "You're positively sweet and adorable." I want to heat and emboss the sentiment so that it comes out shiny. Since the Versafine Onyx black ink is a pigment ink, it takes longer for it to dry, which gives me the time to pour some clear embossing powder on the sentiment. I forgot to use my anti-static tool before pouring on the embossing powder, so I carefully use a paintbrush to brush off any excess embossing powder and use my heat tool to melt the powder. Now for the fun of assembling the card. I adhere the grass and the ground borders to the back of my ink blended panel. Then I tuck my standing lion behind the grassy ground and I adhere the card front to the card base. I add the crown to the little cub's head and I pop him on the card front using some foam tape, and I do the same with the sitting lion. Lastly, I pop on the 2 sentiment banners with some more foam tape, and here we have it, my finished card. I also want to share a variation of the card I made in this video. Here is a similar card design that's personalized for a newborn named Leo, telling him he is positively adorable. Thank you so much for joining me in this card making tutorial today. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. I hope that you will join me again next time. Have a great day, everyone, and happy crafting! Bye-bye!